Rejection arrives in quiet moments. A message left unread. A polite smile that never turns into interest. A conversation that fades without explanation. In those moments, your mind fills the silence with stories, and almost all of them hurt. You replay what you said, how you looked, what you should have done differently. Rejection feels personal because the ego wants a reason, and when it doesn't get one, it turns inward and blames you. Have you ever felt overlooked, only to realize later it changed the direction of your life? At the time, rejection feels like failure. But Stoicism teaches something radical and freeing: events themselves are neutral. It is our interpretation that creates suffering. The rejection didn't damage your worth. Your judgment about it did. And once you understand that distinction, everything begins to shift. This is not a story about women or dating strategies. This is a story about self-mastery. The Stoics believe that a strong man is not one who controls others, but one who controls his reactions. Rejection tests that strength. It exposes attachment, neediness, and the desire for external validation. But it also offers an opportunity to build calm, dignity, and inner stability if you choose to see it clearly. In this video, we'll explore 6 powerful Stoic lessons that help you handle rejection with confidence and clarity. These are not abstract ideas or empty motivation. They are practical, real-world strategies you can apply immediately. Some will change how you act. Others will change how you think. All of them will help you become emotionally resilient instead of reactive. As we move forward, I want you to reflect honestly. Why did that rejection bother you so much? Was it about her, or was it about what her rejection seemed to say about you? Stoicism invites you to question those assumptions rather than accept them blindly. Growth begins the moment you pause and observe instead of react. If this resonates with you so far, take a second to like the video and subscribe. It helps more men find these ideas when they need them most. More importantly, stay with this message. Because rejection, when understood correctly, is not the end of something. It is the beginning of discipline, self-respect, and quiet strength. Remember this as we begin: you are not behind in life because someone said no. You are being shaped. Every moment of discomfort is refining your character, sharpening your judgment, and teaching you where your power truly lives. Stay open, stay calm, and stay disciplined. By the end of this journey, rejection will no longer feel like an insult. It will feel like a signal guiding you toward a stronger, more grounded version of yourself. This is where true Stoic strength quietly begins. Rejection triggers an urge to explain, justify, or chase. Silence feels unnatural when emotions are loud. Yet the Stoics taught that the first victory is not over others, but over impulse. When someone rejects you, the instinct to respond immediately hands them control over your state of mind. Doing nothing, at least at first, is not avoidance. It is discipline. Silence creates space. In that space, dignity returns. You are no longer reacting from wounded pride or fear of loss. You are choosing restraint. Marcus Aurelius wrote that you always have the power to stop yourself from being carried away. This is what silence does. It interrupts the emotional surge before it turns into regret. Think about how many mistakes are made in moments of urgency. Long messages. Defensive explanations. Subtle begging disguised as humor. These actions don't restore respect, they erode it. More importantly, they weaken your own self-respect. When you pause instead of pursue, you communicate strength without saying a word. Doing nothing does not mean suppressing emotion. It means refusing to let emotion command behavior. Feel the disappointment, but don't obey it. Go for a walk. Train your body. Focus on work. Redirect energy into something that improves you instead of chasing someone who already chose differently. Ask yourself this: if you truly respected yourself, would you rush to prove your value? Or would you trust that value doesn't require immediate defense? Silence answers that question clearly. This lesson is simple, but not easy. It demands patience in a culture that rewards instant reaction. But every time you choose calm restraint, you strengthen your inner authority. You learn that peace is not found in replies, explanations, or closure. It is found in control. As you practice this, notice the shift. The urge to react fades. Confidence grows quietly. You begin to realize that silence is not empty. It is full of strength, self-respect, and composure. This is where Stoic power starts, not in action, but in choosing when not to act. Over time, people notice this composure. More importantly, you notice it in yourself. You stop measuring your worth by reactions or responses. You become selective with attention, careful with energy, and patient with outcomes. Silence trains emotional muscles that never develop through constant explanation. Each pause is practice. Each restraint is progress. When rejection appears again, as it always will, you won't feel rushed. You will feel grounded, steady, and quietly in control. This is how Stoics reclaim power without confrontation, proving that the strongest response to rejection is calm self-command, maintained long after emotions demand expression. It becomes a habit, then a defining inner trait. Rejection often feels like a verdict on your worth, but it rarely is. Most rejection is about timing, preference, or personal circumstance. Stoicism reminds us that other people's choices exist outside our control. When you take rejection personally, you assume responsibility for decisions that were never yours to make. Detachment does not mean indifference. It means seeing clearly. You can acknowledge disappointment without attaching your identity to it. The Stoics practiced observing emotions the way you observe weather. A storm may pass through, but it does not define the sky. Feelings arise, peak, and fade when they are not fed by stories. Ask yourself, what story am I telling myself right now? That you are not enough? That you were replaced? These interpretations intensify pain. Replace them with a simpler truth: someone made a choice. Nothing more. Nothing less. Emotional detachment protects your energy. When you stop personalizing rejection, you stop ruminating. You regain mental clarity. This allows you to stay calm, grounded, and respectful toward yourself. You are no longer fighting reality. You are cooperating with it. Stoic detachment also builds resilience. Each time you experience rejection without collapsing inward, you strengthen emotional independence. You learn that peace comes from self-approval, not external acceptance. Imagine how your life would change if rejection no longer dictated your mood. If it became information instead of injury. This shift doesn't happen overnight, but it begins with awareness. Observe your feelings. Name them. Then let them pass without obedience. Detachment is not coldness. It is wisdom. It allows you to remain open, confident, and composed without being controlled by outcomes. When identity stops clinging to approval, peace becomes stable. This is how Stoics remain steady in a world full of unpredictable responses. It takes practice, patience, and repetition. But each time you choose detachment, you reclaim freedom. You stop handing strangers the power to define you. Inner calm becomes familiar, dependable, and self-generated. From that place, rejection loses its sting, and life becomes less reactive, more intentional, and aligned with Stoic strength and quiet confidence. That steadiness is the goal, not approval. Ever. Rejection hurts most when it touches something unresolved inside you. The Stoics believed pain is not random. It points directly to attachment. When rejection stings, the real question is not, "Why did she reject me?" but, "Why does this disturb me so deeply?" That question shifts power back to you. Ask honestly, what did you hope this person would give you? Validation? Belonging? Proof that you are worthy? Rejection hurts where the ego is still negotiating its value. This is not a flaw. It is information. Stoicism replaces self-pity with inquiry. Instead of replaying the moment, you examine the reaction. You notice the tightening in your chest, the urge to check your phone, the sudden doubt. Observation creates distance. Distance creates choice. Pain becomes instruction when you stop resisting it. If rejection exposes insecurity, you now know where to work. If it reveals dependence on approval, you know where freedom must be built. The discomfort is not punishment, it is guidance. This approach requires courage. It is easier to blame circumstances than confront inner attachment. But self-knowledge is the foundation of resilience. The more clearly you understand your triggers, the less power they hold. Ask again, if my worth were solid, would this hurt the same way? That reflection dissolves illusion. You realize rejection didn't create weakness, it revealed it. And anything revealed can be strengthened. Stoics didn't avoid discomfort. They used it. Each emotional sting was a lesson in self-mastery. When you question pain instead of drowning in it, rejection becomes a teacher rather than a threat. This habit changes everything. You stop asking how to be chosen and start asking how to be grounded. Awareness replaces reaction. Clarity replaces chaos. Over time, rejection loses its ability to shake you, because you understand yourself too well to be ruled by impulse. The goal is not emotional numbness. It is emotional intelligence. When you learn from pain instead of fighting it, strength grows naturally. Rejection becomes a mirror, not a verdict, and every reflection moves you closer to disciplined calm, inner stability, and quiet stoic confidence. This disciplined questioning turns emotional wounds into structured growth, replacing confusion with purpose, patience, and a steady sense of inner direction over time consistently. Rejection lingers longer in the mind than in reality. The event is brief, but obsession stretches it into days, sometimes months. Stoicism teaches that attention is energy. Whatever you repeatedly think about gains influence over your emotional state. Removing someone from your mind is harder than removing them from your life, but it is far more important. You may stop messaging, yet still replay conversations, imagine alternate outcomes, and check for signs of regret. This keeps the wound open. Mental distance begins with awareness. Notice when your thoughts drift back. Don't judge it. Redirect it. Each redirection is a repetition, and repetition builds control. You are training focus the same way you train muscles. You don't need closure from another person. Closure is an internal decision to move forward without explanation. Stoics understood that waiting for external answers delays peace. Direction matters more than understanding. Practical action helps. Limit reminders. Stop checking profiles. Replace idle moments with effort, exercise, learning, work. Not as distraction, but as redirection. Energy must flow somewhere. Ask yourself, is this thought strengthening me or weakening me? If it weakens you, release it. Not forcefully, but deliberately. Calm refusal is enough. As mental space clears, emotional balance returns. You sleep better. Focus sharpens. Confidence stabilizes. This is not suppression, it is discipline. Freedom does not arrive when someone returns. It arrives when their presence in your mind fades. When attention returns to your goals, values, and daily actions, rejection loses relevance. Stoicism is not about forgetting people. It is about choosing where your mind lives. When you control attention, you control suffering. Direction replaces rumination. Purpose replaces longing. With time, you realize something important. The mind that lets go grows stronger. Removing someone mentally is not loss. It is reclaiming sovereignty over your inner world, where peace, clarity, and forward motion quietly rebuild your strength. This practice feels uncomfortable at first because the mind resists emptiness. Yet emptiness is space, and space allows intention. When thoughts slow, you hear yourself again. You remember goals delayed, standards lowered, routines ignored. Reclaiming attention restores momentum. You stop circling the past and start advancing forward. Each day without mental obsession compounds. Calm becomes familiar. Desire softens. Confidence becomes self-generated. This is how Stoics moved on without bitterness. Not by erasing memory, but by refusing mental captivity, choosing presence, and directing energy toward growth that continues regardless of who stayed or left. This disciplined focus builds resilience, restores self-respect, and anchors the mind in purposeful forward movement every single day without dependence on external validation or emotional reassurance from others. Begging is the moment strength leaks away. It doesn't always look obvious. Sometimes it hides behind humor, long explanations, or just checking in. But the Stoics understood a hard truth. The moment you beg for attention, you give away authority over yourself. Silence strengthens what begging weakens. External validation is unstable ground. Today it lifts you up, tomorrow it disappears without warning. When your confidence depends on being chosen, your peace is always at risk. Stoicism teaches the opposite approach. Build approval internally, where no one can take it from you. Ask yourself honestly, what are you really seeking when you chase attention? Is it connection or reassurance? Is it love or relief from self-doubt? When you identify the need beneath the behavior, you realize something important. No amount of external approval can permanently satisfy an internal gap. Inner validation is built through standards, not reactions. You decide what makes you respectable. You decide what effort earns pride. Discipline replaces desperation. When you live according to principles instead of outcomes, confidence becomes stable. Never begging does not mean emotional coldness. It means self-respect. It means understanding that your presence is not something to bargain with. If interest fades, you let it fade. Not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. Stoics believed dignity was non-negotiable. Once compromised, it is difficult to rebuild. That is why restraint matters. When rejection happens, choosing not to plead preserves something far more valuable than attention: self-trust. Notice the shift when you stop asking to be chosen. Your posture changes. Your thoughts quiet down. You stop performing. Life becomes less anxious and more intentional. You are no longer waiting for permission to feel worthy. Inner authority grows through repetition. Each time you choose silence over begging, you reinforce identity. Each time you hold your ground, confidence compounds. Eventually, you no longer need to remind yourself of worth. You know it. This is the quiet strength Stoicism points toward. Not dominance. Not control. Self-respect. When attention is freely given, you receive it calmly. When it is withheld, you remain steady. That steadiness becomes magnetic, but more importantly, it becomes peaceful. You become powerful when your worth no longer depends on response, approval, or reassurance. When validation comes from within, rejection loses leverage. You stand grounded, disciplined, and unshaken, knowing you never needed to beg to be enough. Chapter 7, Integration. Turn rejection into discipline and growth. Exact word count, 380 words. Rejection carries raw energy. Left unmanaged, it turns into resentment, self-doubt, or obsession. Directed correctly, it becomes fuel. Stoicism teaches that emotion itself is neutral. What matters is where you aim it. Discipline is the tool that transforms pain into progress. Instead of replaying rejection, you channel effort. You train harder. You focus deeper. You sharpen skills that were neglected while attention drifted outward. Growth becomes the response, not explanation. This is how Stoics reclaimed power. They didn't argue with reality. They adapted to it. When something was denied, they asked, "What is still within my control?" The answer was always action, effort, and character. Rejection becomes productive when it refines routine. Wake up earlier. Work with intention. Strengthen body and mind. These acts rebuild confidence slowly, but permanently. You are no longer trying to prove worth. You are embodying it. Notice how effort changes perspective. The mind becomes quieter. Comparison fades. Purpose replaces rumination. When progress is visible, rejection loses emotional weight. It becomes background noise rather than identity. Growth is rarely loud. It doesn't announce itself. It shows up in consistency, patience, and discipline. This is why Stoics value daily practice over emotional reaction. Effort compounds even when no one is watching. Ask yourself, what version of me does this moment invite? The bitter one, or the disciplined one? The answer defines the outcome. Rejection no longer feels like dismissal when you are busy building. Momentum restores self-trust. Strength returns through action, not validation. Over time, something subtle happens. You stop associating rejection with loss. You associate it with focus. Pain no longer scatters you. It concentrates you. This is resilience. Not emotional hardness, but adaptive strength. When effort replaces resentment, growth becomes inevitable. Rejection doesn't slow you down. It sharpens direction. And direction, once clear, carries you forward with calm determination and unshakable stoic resolve. Chapter 8, Conclusion, The Hidden Gift of Rejection. Exact word count, 410 words. Rejection feels like an ending, but it is usually a redirection. What closes one door strengthens the one walking away from it. Stoicism teaches that calm outlasts emotion, and discipline outlasts desire. You've seen how silence restores dignity, how detachment protects peace, how self-inquiry builds awareness, and how focus reclaims power. Each lesson points to the same truth: your strength was never dependent on being chosen. Rejection exposes where validation was outsourced. Once you reclaim it, confidence stabilizes. You stop reacting. You start directing. Life becomes intentional instead of emotional. You are not behind. You are being refined. Stoics understood that friction shapes character. Comfort rarely does. Every uncomfortable moment trains patience, clarity, and restraint when used correctly. As you move forward, remember this: rejection cannot diminish someone who governs himself. When identity is rooted internally, external outcomes lose authority. Use this as a checkpoint. Reflect honestly. Where did rejection push you toward growth? Where did it reveal attachment? Awareness is progress. If this journey resonated with you, share your experience in the comments. Write the phrase, "strength in adversity," and commit to practicing these lessons daily. Like the video, subscribe, and pass this message to someone who needs grounding instead of reassurance. Stoic strength is quiet. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't beg for approval. It stands steady while the world reacts. Every rejection is a signal. Not of failure, but of direction. When you stop fighting it and start learning from it, peace follows naturally. Carry this forward. You don't need to be chosen to be powerful. You don't need validation to be worthy. You need discipline, clarity, and self-respect. Rejection guided you here. Let it guide you further. Toward calm, resilience, and the strongest version of yourself, one who walks forward grounded, focused, and unshaken by outcomes beyond his control.